Marvel Rivals is a free-to-play online hero shooter with over 35 playable characters and counting. But I'm sure you already know that, and that's not why you're here. As the title says, in today's video, we are going to be attempting to earn the Platinum Trophy on the PlayStation version of Marvel Rivals, and this is actually a Platinum I've been planning to get since the game released. It's just I haven't had the willpower to execute such a crazy plan until now. There are 41 available trophies, including the Platinum, and I would say these trophies are a mix of easy, medium, and hard in terms of their difficulty. Essentially, there are a couple of progression-based trophies, such as reaching level 20 and winning 100 matches, and then the rest of the trophies all lend themselves to a different character each, so you'll find yourself having to do some sort of feat relative to a character's abilities to unlock a trophy. Let me just preface the rest of this video by saying that if you are expecting esports level gameplay from yours truly, then you should probably click off this video now, otherwise you're going to be very disappointed. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, let's get into the challenge. Unlike my last video, I felt like the Platinum run needed a little bit more preparation, in the sense that I knew I'd struggle with a lot of the characters I'm unfamiliar with, so I did what any true gamer does and headed to Reddit to check out which trophies are regarded as the most difficult. Why? Because those are exactly the trophies I'm going to start off with. Was it painful? Yes. Was it fun? Slightly. Was it worth it? Maybe. I don't know, but if you subscribe, then it will be. So kicking things off, the first trophy we went for was Raged Uncaged, which requires you as Wolverine to land 3 KOs in a single use of his ultimate. Honestly, just reading that sentence out alone has given me generational trauma, and I'm scared. Anyway, for my first game as Wolverine, I did relatively okay on Doom Match, but then towards the end of the game, I lagged pretty intensely and lost all of my match progress, so that was fun. For my second match as Wolverine, I think I had a really good game, and I genuinely thought I had unlocked the trophy. Take a look. But apparently I didn't, so I'm guessing where it says triple KO, I probably already took out someone before using my ult, and then the ult probably only took out like 2 people, meaning it was still a triple KO, but not all from the ultimate. This was made even worse because as soon as the match ended, I had a trophy pop up, and I was like, oh damn, I really did it. And I was so excited, but then I very quickly realized this trophy was called Onslaught, which is earned through landing a 3-player KO streak. So although it wasn't the trophy I was going for, it is indeed a trophy, and it officially meant our count for the Marvel Rivals Platinum had begun. I immediately went into the next game and once again came so close to getting a triple kill with my ult, but it just wasn't happening. However, at the end of the game, I did give my opponents an upvote, and that earned us our second trophy, Thumbs Up. I then spent the next couple of hours, yes, you heard that right, hours, trying to get this trophy, and I figured I would try a game mode other than Doom Match to see if that made a difference at all, but it was still proving fruitless. Side note as well, after the game you were seeing on screen, I headed back to the lobby and claimed some of my achievements, which earned me the trophy Master of Modes for completing an arcade match. Anyway, back to the Rage Uncaged grind. It had now been so long of me trying to get this trophy that I could slowly feel the light leaving my eyes, and the only thing I felt other than deep emotional pain was, funny enough, rage. However, with this next match, that all changed when I entered a game of Convoy on Spider Islands. I found myself in a position where just as my ultimate finished charging, I was next to a group of 3 opponents, so without hesitation, I activated my ult, earning myself a triple KO, yet no trophy popped up, so I was afraid I'd messed it up or something and I didn't actually get it. But then once the match ended, the trophy popped on my PS5, bringing our count to 4 out of 41. And you can also see the achievement unlock in game 2. With arguably the hardest character trophy out of the way, it was time to tackle yet another character-themed trophy, and this time we were going for Vicious Vines, which requires you as Groot to imprison 4 enemies with a single use of your ultimate. However, since I've never actually used this character before, I headed into the practice range first just so I could familiarize myself with his abilities, attacks, and things like that. Eventually, after gaining a little bit of confidence with the character, I decided it was the right time to go into my first match as Groot, and so I loaded straight into quick play, and our first match was on the new Hellfire Gala map, which for me was pretty exciting since this was my first time actually playing it. Me being a team player, I immediately rushed to the objective and tried to help my teammates as best as I could while I waited for my ult to charge. Once my ult was charged, I needed to wait for the perfect moment to unleash it upon at least 4 enemies. Unfortunately for me, that moment came just minutes later at the beginning of the second round, when 4 enemies bundled up perfectly together and I was able to ensnare them. Again, the trophy didn't actually pop during the match, but instead unlocked after the game had ended. So I'm guessing this is how it's going to be for pretty much all of the trophies we unlock going forward. I'm not gonna lie, I do find that pretty annoying because it means you have to deal with the anxiety of wondering whether or not you actually got the trophy up until the match ends. But hey ho, we added another trophy to my collection and we can now move on to the next character. The next character being none other than the unbeatable Squirrel Girl herself. Now this trophy, known as Those Tiny Claws, requires you as Squirrel Girl to land 3 knockouts with a single use of her ultimate ability. Now supposedly when I was doing my research for this platinum run, this trophy actually used to be really difficult, but has since been patched to make it a little bit easier. My first 2 games as Squirrel Girl were unsuccessful in terms of unlocking the trophy, but I did actually do pretty well with her. I mean, I managed to get some pretty good plays, and I even finished a match with an MVP award, which makes a nice change. But what you are not prepared for is what happened in this match right here. Just take a look. Yep. That's right, I somehow got incredibly lucky with the placements of the opponents and the health they were on, and I just went absolutely ham with my ultimate and standard attack, and what do you know, as soon as the game ended and the victory was ours, the trophy unlocked and we were now on 6 out of 41. Honestly, so far these trophies haven't been too bad in terms of difficulty, but what do I know, this could in fact end up biting me on the butt heavily later on, so maybe I should be quiet. Moving on, the next trophy I wanted to go for was Deadly Bites, which requires you as Black Widow to land 3 KOs with critical hits in a single match. Now essentially all this means is you have to take down your opponent with the final hit being a headshot. According to some people online, if you do hit a headshot on an enemy and then your teammate finishes them off, it still counts towards the trophy, but I don't know about that personally. You'll also know when your KO was a critical one because the opponent's name will flash up in red as opposed to the usual white color. Now obviously for time's sake, I cut a lot of this footage out, but holy cow, I must have spent like 2 hours trying to get this trophy. It was really hard. I did come close quite a few times to unlocking it. For example, I played a match of Convoy on Midtown. Very early on, I got 2 critical KOs, but then the game actually ended before I could even add a third, so that was nice. I then thought I would try a different game mode instead, so I hopped into a game of Doom match, and fortunately, this was the game where I actually unlocked the trophy. I again got 2 critical KOs within quick succession, and then towards the end of the match, I was able to headshot Squirrel Girl, earning us a 3rd critical KO, and then upon the game ending, the trophy unlocked, and I could finally move on from this god-awful character. Honestly, my thoughts and prayers go out to anyone who mains Black Widow. I don't know how you do it. Following this, I turned my attention to a trophy for a character that I actually really enjoy playing as, and that's Iron Man. Not only is his gameplay super addicting, but he's the first character I actually used in Marvel Rivals back when it first released like last December. I also had probably my best ever game of Rivals too. I managed to go on like a 20 plus KO streak, and I actually went flawless for the entire match as well, which for me is pretty damn good. I also took an opportunity at the beginning of the match to mess around with the customization wheel, which earned us the trophy You Do You upon the game concluding. In terms of the trophy for Iron Man, you have to hit 4 enemies with a single use of his ult Invincible Pulse Cannon. I did actually come quite close relatively early on in my hunt for this trophy, but I was just a little short of 4 enemies and could only seem to get triple hits. That all changed a few games later when I went into a match of domination on Exgiard, and while we were contesting the throne, I activated my ultimate, which KO'd 1 enemy and damaged another 3. I do recommend, if you're also going for the Platinum Trophy in Marvel Rivals, that when it comes to trophies that require you to take down or hit multiple enemies at once, always try to do these on capture-based game modes with maps that have tighter spaces, such as Exgiard with the throne room. But anyway, since we managed to hit 4 enemies with our ultimate, when the game ended, the flawless design trophy popped, and we were 1 step closer to the holy grail that is the Platinum Trophy. Since I had just finished with Iron Man, it only felt right that the next character's trophy I went for was Captain America's. And I'm not going to lie, the requirement for his is a little bit difficult. The trophy is called Justice for All, and it requires you to land 3 KOs with a single use of Freedom Charge, which doesn't sound too bad until you realize his ultimate literally lasts about 10 freaking seconds. There is one positive, however, and that's that your teammates can contribute towards the KOs. At first, I found that I came closest to unlocking this trophy by lingering around the battlefield, and watching my teammates duke it out with the enemies. And once I spotted a couple of opponents on low health, I'd activate the ultimate and basically just spam buttons hoping that they would be killed before it runs out. And I tried this a few times across several matches, and I was either activating the ultimate too late, too early, or only managing like 2 KOs with it. Annoyed, I took to Reddit to see if there were any suggestions from other players on how best to approach this trophy, and one user mentioned it being a lot easier to obtain in a Doom match. Minutes later, I jumped straight into a Doom match, and fortunately, I came across 3 enemies in a tight-spaced alleyway, so I activated Freedom Charge just before this Scarlet Witch was killed, and then I got a double KO on Punisher and Magic. Again, you don't actually have to KO all 3 enemies yourself to get the trophy, you just need to at least damage 3 enemies while the ultimate is active, and then have those same 3 enemies die while the ultimate is still going. As a result of the play I just pulled off, once the game ended, the Justice for All trophy unlocked, and I was now sitting on 10 out of 41 trophies, meaning I was pretty much 1/4 of the way done with this Platinum Challenge already, so pretty good. Next up on my agenda was the Smart is New Smash trophy, which requires you as Bruce Banner to land a KO within 3 seconds of calming down from the Hulk to Bruce Banner. Honestly, this trophy was the easiest so far, and I unlocked it during like my first match playing as Hulk. I literally went into a Doom match and was just destroying everything and everyone in my path, and then towards the end of the match I was having like a 1v1 with Namor, in which I dealt a ton of damage to him as Hulk, and then when he turned me back into Banner, I just finished him off with like a grenade and some shots from the pistol, and then upon the game ending, the trophy popped and we were ready for the next one, so pretty quick. Speaking of the next one, I wanted to go for a character trophy that was a little more relaxed in terms of the requirement, and so I chose Hawkeye's trophy, West Coast Best Coast, which essentially requires you to land 10 KOs with the assistance of any Avengers character. The Avengers characters that can assist you are Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, and Black Widow. So for anyone familiar with the MCU and things like that and most recent comic runs, it's pretty much the original cast. What's really good about this trophy is that you don't have to complete it within a single game. It's more of a trophy you can just earn over time, and your progress towards it saves in between matches. However, when I went into my first match with the intention of selecting Hawkeye, my teammate had already picked him before I could even locate him on the character wheel, so I instead opted for the Punisher because there's a character specific trophy for him that I hadn't yet acquired. The trophy in question is called Smokescreen and requires you as Punisher to land 3 KOs amidst the smoke of Scourge Grenade in a single game, and so I switched my focus onto this trophy instead for the time being. I'm not gonna lie to you either, I did in fact unlock this trophy within my first game as Punisher, but I actually have no idea how. I started off throwing smoke grenades at opponents and then just trying to gun them down as quickly as possible, but I noticed that by the time I'd KO'd them, the smoke had completely disappeared. I then decided to try and find enemies with low health and then pick them off with a grenade and a few shots, and I tried this for most of the match, and then upon the game ending, the trophy popped. So apparently I did it, although I'm not too sure I did. It certainly didn't feel like it, but you know what, I'm not gonna complain. Following this, I then focused my attention once again onto the pursuit of the Hawkeye trophy, and I entered into a match of Conquest as I felt that mode would be the quickest in terms of unlocking this trophy. I was absolutely right, because in just my second game, one of my teammates was Iron Man, and I spent most of this match following and assisting them where I could, and I was able to assist 10 KOs, meaning once the game ended, the West Coast Best Coast trophy popped, and I now had 13 trophies to my name. Moving on, the next character trophy I wanted to tackle was the one belonging to Jeff the Landshark, that being Snack Attack. This trophy requires you to swallow 4 enemies with a single use of your ultimate. Now, this trophy was one I was actually really looking forward to, simply because playing as Jeff is so fun and his movement is so fluid as well. It's just an all-round great time. I also unlocked his trophy in just a couple of matches as well. The first match was super entertaining with some pretty good plays, and I even came close to unlocking the trophy within the first 5 minutes of attempting it. However, I could only manage to swallow 3 enemies and not 4. Although I did get MVP at the end of this match, so that was a pretty nice surprise. The second match as Jeff was where things got really interesting, as towards the end of the round I activated my ultimate and swallowed 4 enemies. However, one of them died pretty quickly before I could even do anything with them, so I assumed they were on low HP or something like that. With the remaining 3 enemies I had, I dropped them off the map, resulting in a triple kill, although I must admit I totally forgot to spit out the allies I had swallowed before diving off of the roof, so I may or may not have killed them as well. If either of those teammates happen to see this video, I'm sorry, and your sacrifice will not be forgotten. Anyway, once the match ended, the trophy Snack Attack popped, and we were one step closer to unlocking the platinum. Moving forward, the next two trophies I went for were Spider Sense Tingling and, to me, my X-Men. Starting off with the Spider Sense Tingling trophy, this is of course a trophy related to Spider-Man, although I'm pretty sure you probably didn't need me to tell you that given the name. This one requires you to detect an enemy with your Spider Sense and then land a winning counterattack. I'm not too sure what they were thinking with the wording of this one, as it's a little complicated, but essentially what it means is knock out an enemy after you detect them with your Spider Sense. Now, the Spider Sense in this game is a passive ability, so it activates automatically whenever an enemy is around you and is depicted through a little flashing animation above Spidey's head, just like it is in the comics. I found that the easiest way to unlock this trophy is to allow your ultimate to fully charge and just wait for your Spider Sense to go off. As soon as your Spider Sense goes off, you should activate your ultimate, and as long as the enemy isn't like a Vanguard or on full health or something like that, you'll usually be able to KO them. That's exactly what I did in the match on screen. You'll see that Squirrel Girl triggered my Spider Sense as I was swinging away, so I did a 180 on her and unleashed Spectacular Spin, resulting in a KO that meant once again, when the game ended, the trophy popped and we were now on a total of 15 out of 41. Next up was, to me, my X-Men, which is a Storm-specific character trophy and requires you to assist any one of the X-Men members in landing a KO 10 times. This trophy follows the exact same premise as the Hawkeye one from earlier, and because of this, I again found it easiest to just go into Conquest as Storm and just follow around any X-Men members who are on my team, aiding them in battle. I did exactly this for the whole of 2 Conquest matches, and by the time the second victory screen rolled around, the trophy unlocked, adding another one to our collection. Also as well, a quick side note, this was my first time using Storm in Marvel Rivals, and I have to say, she is incredibly fun to use, so if you haven't played as her yet, I highly recommend doing so, because she's pretty great. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this next trophy is one that when I read the description of it and saw the discourse online about it, this filled me with absolute dread. I am of course talking about none other than the Winter Soldier's Trophy Arm Race. In order to acquire this one, you have to land 3 KOs with a single use of his ultimate, Kraken Impact. To be completely honest with you, one of the main reasons why I wasn't looking forward to tackling this one is because of the amount of people online mentioning how difficult it is, and some people even said it's bugged, and the fact that I hadn't played as Bucky before, so I had no idea what to expect. I hopped into my first few games as the Winter Soldier, and just like I anticipated, this one was a struggle. I tried my best to find opponents on low HP before activating my ultimate, but I found I'd either do it a little too early. I tried my best to find opponents on low HP before activating my ultimate, but I found I'd either do a little to no damage at all, or I'd knock out like one enemy and then upon activating my ultimate again, struggle to knock out another. After several hours of hearing armed and dangerous and wanting to tear my ears off, my fortunes finally turned around during a game of Convergence in an undead-themed Central Park. Rather than talking through this one, I think I'll just let you see what happened for yourself. Yep, that's right. That really happened. I really did that. That was me. I have no idea how, but I didn't just hit the trophy requirement once. I hit it like 2 or 3 times within the same game. So yeah, but as you know, I usually like to give tips or like a piece of advice on how I unlocked a particular trophy. But for this one, I genuinely have no idea other than through sheer luck or built up anger or both. Oh, and I was also awarded MVP following the victory from this match, which was a nice little bonus as well. However, more importantly, we were also awarded with the aforementioned trophy Arm Race, which meant I could finally play as a different character, and I no longer had to listen to the words armed and dangerous on repeat for hours on end. So, you know, a win-win. Moving onwards, the next trophy I wanted to go for was another one that I'd seen many people regarding as one of the harder ones, and that's Thor's trophy Divine Justice, which requires you to strike down 4 enemies with a single use of his ultimate. Now, what's really good about this trophy is that you don't actually have to knock out 4 enemies, you just have to hit 4 enemies. So in my opinion, it's actually a lot easier than most of the other trophies, and this is an opinion I had further cemented once I actually unlocked it. Speaking of, this trophy really didn't take me long at all. I went into my first ever match as Thor on Exguard, quite fitting, and once my ultimate was fully charged, I unleashed it within the contested throne room, and although on screen it only looks like I hit 2 people, there were 2 to 3 other opponents behind me that were caught in the area of effect. And just like the others, once the match ended, the trophy popped, and I was pleasantly surprised that I had gotten it as quickly as I did, but there was no time to sit around and celebrate as we still needed 23 more trophies before that could happen. The next 3 character-related trophies I'm going to go for are the ones tied to Star-Lord, Scarlet Witch, and Magneto. The reason I have structured these 3 characters one after the other is simply because their trophies are in the category I like to call same feces, different species. Essentially, the requirements for each character are to either assist teammates, be assisted by teammates, or knock out opponents that relate to the character you're playing as in some way 10 times. For example, with Star-Lord, it's be assisted by Guardians members, for Wanda, it's knock out mutants, and for Magneto, it's assist mutants. I did this for each character respectively, and after a few matches, the relevant trophies unlocked, adding 3 more to our collection, bringing our total now to 21. My best advice for acquiring these trophies is to honestly just go into Conquest or Doom match. The rounds are really short, and 9 out of 10 times the character you need to be present will be there. Take the Magneto trophy for example. You have to assist mutant allies, and there's usually, if not always, at least one other mutant on your team, whether that's Psylocke, Magic, Wolverine. You get it, you're smart. With us now roughly being halfway through this platinum, things were starting to heat up and I was really excited. The trophy I set my sights on next was Way of the Butterfly, which requires you as Psylocke to contest the mission area for 60 seconds in a single match. Now, from my understanding and the way I unlocked the trophy, it doesn't actually have to be a continuous and uninterrupted 60 seconds, but rather an accumulative 60 seconds over the course of a single game. The reason I say this is because you'll notice through the footage on screen that I don't at any point contest the mission area for 60 seconds straight. I either die or I just back out because I'm doing something else. But nevertheless, once the match ended, the trophy appeared and I was ready to take on the next one. Following this then, the next trophy I'm going to go for is the one tied to Rocket Raccoon's character, Go Get 'em Guardians. This requires you as Rocket to revive any member of the Guardians 5 times. And what's really nice about this one is that again, it doesn't need to be done in one game. In terms of difficulty, I would say this trophy is relatively easy, but that doesn't mean it isn't annoying. What I mean by this is the requirement of the trophy is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is to deploy a BRB in a match by pressing R1 and then have a teammate die, in which they will be revived by the device you just deployed. However, there are 2 elements to this trophy that, unless you're playing with a friend, are completely out of your control. Firstly, you have to hope one of your teammates actually selects a Guardians character. Secondly, you have to hope that once your BRB device is deployed, the teammate who dies first is a Guardians character as well. For example, let's say on your team there's a Star-Lord and a Psylocke, both on low health, so you place your BRB device. Psylocke dies, and then a few moments later, so does Star-Lord. The BRB device will only revive Psylocke, and then you have to wait for that ability to cool down before you can try again, so it's really just luck and time-based if you ask me. Anyway, regardless of this, if you just keep playing games as Rocket and throwing down your BRB devices when you can, eventually luck will be on your side, and you'll revive enough Guardians members over time to unlock the trophy. This is what happened to me, and I was actually very fortunate to get this one in just a couple of matches. You'll see from the footage on screen that at the beginning of my first match with Rocket, I was able to revive Star-Lord twice, and then in the second game, amongst all the chaos, I was able to revive Star-Lord a further 2 times and Mantis once, which resulted in the trophy unlocking upon the match ending, and I was now on 23 trophies. If, ladies and gentlemen, you have made it this far into the video, then brace yourselves, because what you're about to see next is, in my opinion, one of the worst trophies to ever trophy. This trophy is so bad that I genuinely considered uninstalling the game for a brief period of time and going outside. It was bad. I am, of course, talking about the Mantis and Cloak and Dagger trophies, Victory in Bloom and Symphony of Light and Dark. These trophies are the exact same in the sense that they both require you to assist allies in achieving a team wipe. Now, the reason why I hated these trophies so much is because there is absolutely zero element of skill involved. And rather than these trophies being dependent on you, they are dependent on you having good teammates. And, well, if you're playing solo like me, you'll know that that's about as rare as seeing a vegan at a barbecue. Because of Mantis and Cloak and Dagger being support characters, yeah, they can help in dealing damage to opponents, of course, but their bread and butter lies in buffing teammates and healing them, meaning for the team wipe to occur, you need to have competent teammates who can push the enemy team and KO them quickly. I mean, I've cut down the footage massively for the sake of the video, but these two characters took me a while to do, but thankfully for both characters, I was able to eventually find some good teammates and they managed to pull through the team wipes. I mean, the Cloak and Dagger one was just crazy. We were into overtime and the Scarlet Witch I had just altered the entire team to get us an ace, which I am eternally grateful for, because it meant I had now unlocked both of those trophies and I never had to touch either of those characters again, which is probably best for me and everyone involved. Next up is Iron Fist's trophy, Might of Fuxie? I have no idea. But anyway, this one requires you to land 3 KOs with a single use of his ultimate, Living Chi. And to be completely honest with you, this is another trophy that's purely down to luck in terms of where your opponents are situated. Luckily for me, while battling Doctor Strange, I activated my ultimate to finish him off, and then quickly directed my attention to a nearby Namor and Loki, who I was able to KO just a second before my ult ran out, resulting in the trophy popping on the victory screen moments later. Speaking of the aforementioned Namor, that's whose trophy I actually went for next. This one is called Aquatic Assault and requires you to summon Monstro Spawn to land 10 KOs in a single game. Now, what's important to note here is that the final hit doesn't need to come from the Monstro Spawn itself, rather they just have to contribute towards the KO of an enemy. This means your Monstro Spawn can damage an enemy who is later killed by a teammate, and this will still count as one of your 10 KOs. So what I did was I loaded into a game of domination, and essentially what I kept doing was placing my Monstro Spawn on the capture point and then trying to KO as many enemies as possible. I did this several times throughout the course of one match, and by the time the victory screen rolled around, the trophy had popped and I was again one step closer to achieving the platinum. After this, the next character trophy I set my sights on was Venom's one called Grip of Hunger. This one requires you to snare 4 enemies with a single use of his ultimate, Cellular Corrosion, and to be honest with you, this one was pretty easy and doesn't really take a lot of effort or skill to obtain. In fact, I actually got this trophy in my first match as Venom by simply waiting for a group of enemies to bunch together around the objective, and then once they did, I swooped in and activated the ability, slowing down 5 of them, meaning we had hit the criteria for the trophy, which once again popped when the game ended, and as a result, I only had 13 trophies left to unlock. Once I had completed that, it was time to move on to yet another character-related trophy, this time one tied to Black Panther, known as King of the Dead. This trophy requires you to land a 3-player KO streak on the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda map, so I guess for this trophy there isn't really too much to say. I mean, Black Panther is a pretty powerful character, so even if you're not used to playing as him, you should find this trophy relatively easy. I first took out Moon Knight with a couple of melee attacks, and then shortly after I used a spinning kick to help clear out a couple more enemies. I also managed to land a lucky spear shot on Jeff 2, grabbing us another KO and bringing our KO streak up to 5, which honestly was news to me because I thought I had only taken out like 3 people so far. I then took out Emma Frost, Loki and Adam Warlock, and then a few moments later we successfully escorted the statue to the meditation chamber, not only granting us a victory, but the aforementioned trophy as well. However, this wasn't the only trophy we unlocked following this match, as the XP earned tipped us over to level 20, bringing in the trophy Rising Star as well, which was a nice bonus. Moving on, the next trophy on my agenda was Terror of the 10 10 realms, which is a hella specific trophy, and just like the Black Panther one, requires you to land a 3-player KO streak, except this time on the X-Guard map. And let me just say, I went on a little more than a 3-player KO streak. Kicking things off, I was a little unsure of what to expect with Hela in terms of her gameplay, simply because once again I had never used her, but oh my god is she fun to use. I first KO'd Emma Frost with some daggers, and then I assisted in taking down Star-Lord not long before robbing this Punisher of his ultimate. So at this point I had actually already hit the trophy requirement, but I wasn't done there. No. I ended up going absolutely crazy with Hela. Just take a look. Honestly, just using her ultimate for the first time was really exciting, and I'm definitely going to be using her more in the future, possibly even in ranked as well, who knows. But anyway, once the match ended and the victory was confirmed, the trophy popped and I was ready for the next challenge. This challenge came in the form of Magic and her character-specific trophy, Demon's Roar, which asks you to land 3 KOs with a single transformation into Darkchild, which is basically her ultimate. Honestly, I was dreading this one going into it because in the past I have tried using this character before and I was absolutely terrible. But for some reason this time around, I was able to grasp her moves and abilities a little bit more and actually understand how she works. So I headed into a game of Doom match, and when the opportunity presented itself, I turned into Darkchild to finish off a weakened Wolverine, and then luckily for me there was a Black Widow and Hela nearby, who I was also able to KO just before my ultimate ran out. So as a result, you guessed it, once the match ended and we reached the top 6 screen, the trophy popped and I could check another one off of my list. Up next is what I would say, in my opinion, is the worst fucking trophy ever. This trophy is none other than Family Ties, and for such a positively named trophy, this one really did make me feel like shit. To unlock this trophy, you're required as Adam Warlock to forge a soul bond with 3 allies from the Guardians in a single game. This means that you have to have at least 3 of either Star-Lord, Groot, Mantis, or Rocket on your team. Oh, and also a quick side note, Venom also counts as one of the allies you can bond with for this trophy, and I personally believe that's because in the comics, there has been instances where Venom has joined the Guardians before, such as issues 21 through 23 of Guardians of the Galaxy Planet of the Symbiotes. Sure, you know, if you're playing with a group of friends, this trophy is probably one of the easiest in the game, but if you're someone like me who has 0 friends, trying to find a lobby full of randoms where at least 3 of them are Guardians characters is an absolute nightmare. Eventually, after hours and hours of trying my luck in different lobbies, I managed to get into a game with Rocket, Venom, and Star-Lord. So once the spawn room opened up, I immediately activated my soul bond ability. I wasn't taking no risk with that at all. And then later on, once the match ended, the trophy popped, and honestly, unlocking this one gave me a boost to carry on with the rest of this platinum, as this trophy in particular was draining a lot of my will to live. It was awful. With that out of the way, there are only 7 more trophies left to obtain, and I had every intention of getting them. Starting with Loki's trophy, God of Treachery. To unlock this one, you need to land 1 KO by stabbing your opponent from behind, which basically just means for Loki meleeing them in the back. I thought the best mode to get this trophy in would be Doom Match, and so I immediately headed into a game and tried to find someone on low health who I could sneak up behind. This moment came when I saw a Mantis 2 occupied fighting Groot, and so I snuck up behind her and meleeed her twice to grant myself the knockout. More importantly though, once the game ended, the trophy unlocked and I could move on to the next character, Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange's trophy is a little bit of a tricky one and requires you to land 1 terrain KO using a portal. What this essentially means is you have to get an enemy to step through one of your portals and then die by being teleported off of the map. To be honest with you, I was actually expecting myself to take a really long time getting this one, but then this happened.
I'm opening a portal.
Yeah, that's right. In my first game as Doctor Strange, I was attempting to set up the portal trap, and then I started to get attacked by a couple of enemies, and I thought, if I'm gonna die, it's gonna be by my own hands. So I jumped through the portal to unalive myself, and then for whatever reason, the enemy Black Panther decided to pursue after me, which meant he also fell off the map and died. So yeah, I hit the trophy requirement within like the first 2 minutes of trying. And this was obviously confirmed a few moments later when the game ended and the trophy actually unlocked as I was heading back to the lobby screen. We now had just 5 trophies left, and so at this point I was just picking whichever one I felt like doing in that moment. The first of the 5 I picked was Moon Knight's trophy, Punishment of the Moon, which requires you to hit 4 enemies with a single use of his ultimate, Hand of Khonshu. Now, this one did actually take me a little bit of time to complete, simply because I kept activating the ultimate and only managing to hit like 2 or 3 enemies, because by the time the ultimate actually starts raining fire, most people realize what's happening and then exit the area of effect. But this wasn't the case in the game you're about to see, where towards the end of the match, I noticed the enemy team doing like a group push towards the objective. So I activated the ultimate, which hit at least 4 of them and helped us to secure the victory, which, speaking of, once the victory screen rolled around, not 1 but 2 trophies actually popped, which was a nice surprise. One of the trophies was the one I was just talking about, Punishment of the Moon, but the second one was the trophy Inevitable, which is earned through winning 100 matches. The next trophy I went for was my second to last character related one, and that was Luna Snow's titled Multiverse Tour. This one is actually super easy and requires you to complete a match on 5 maps with different themes. So essentially all you have to do is literally play on several different maps with Luna and just make sure you see the game through, whether that's a win or a loss. In my case, the maps I played on as Luna were Tokyo 2099, Empire of Eternal Night, Krakow, Wakanda, and Exgard. Upon finishing the match on Exgard with a victory, the trophy popped and I now had just 1 character related trophy left. Who is that character, I hear you ask? That character is none other than Penny Parker and her army of spider drones. Her trophy is called Watch Your Step and requires you to blast 3 enemies with a single use of Arachno Mine. So essentially you just have to hit 3 enemies with a single mine. Now, I have seen a lot of people say that the best way to get this trophy is to be playing defense on convoy and then plant a mine at the enemy's spawn point during the beginning of the match. But I tried this like 2 or 3 times, and in all of those instances, I was only able to hit like 1 enemy, if that. So instead, I found just looking for groups of enemies around the map and throwing a mine at them worked so much better, and this is exactly what I did during a match of Convoy on Midtown. I literally just kept wandering around the map, and when I saw groups of 3 close together, I launched a mine at them and just hoped that it damaged all 3, and this hope clearly paid off because when the game ended, the trophy unlocked and I was officially done with all character-related trophies in the game. With that trophy now out of the way, I was on a total of 39 out of 41, meaning I had just 1 trophy left before the platinum was mine. This trophy was none other than the Assemble trophy, which is awarded by teaming up with a friend for a match. Now obviously, since I had no friends, this trophy was looking a little bit unattainable, which is why I headed to the Marvel Rivals subreddit page to look for like-minded people in the same position as me. Thankfully, I managed to find someone who also needed the play a match with a friend trophy, so we partied up and jumped into a quick game of Conquest. And when the match ended, despite the defeat, the trophy popped, and better yet, so did the platinum trophy titled The Collector, which meant I had done it after hours of grinding and temptation to break my monitor. I had finally unlocked the platinum trophy, meaning I could rest and watch the sunrise on a grateful universe. Anyway, that's it for the Marvel Rivals Platinum Trophy, and overall, I really did enjoy this Platinum. It was super fun, and my favorite aspect was the fact that I was forced to play as characters I probably otherwise would never have picked, but I'm grateful I did because now I know just how awesome playing as characters like Storm and Magneto is. The only downside to this trophy is the fact that there are a lot of trophies, like a lot, that are either dependent on you having good teammates or just being super lucky in terms of what characters are on your team. But overall, it was a fulfilling challenge to complete, and I encourage you to try it yourself if you do have Marvel Rivals. And if you don't have Marvel Rivals, then why don't you have it? Because it's free, so you should totally download it. And this is not even an ad either. I wish it was. It's not. It's just a great game, so you should definitely get it. But if you did like this video, why not check out my previous one where I unlocked the platinum trophy in Minecraft, because that was also a ton of fun. Also subscribe and like the video if you want to, or don't. You have free will, so you know, do with that what you will. But that's it from me, and I hope you have a great day. Stay safe, everybody, and bye.